Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone to another edition of PEWTER.pints. My name is Jason, this is my bigger bro Dave, and we are PEWTER. And this is a podcast dedicated to drinking beer and talking shop. And the kind of shop that we talk is construction, primarily the home renovation industry.
Wait, we forgot a light.
Yeah, it won't make a difference.
That's a more better.
And every now and then we get a cool guest to come on, and this week we do have a cool guest. We have Chris English from Hardwood joining us.
Hey guys,
Welcome, Chris.
thank you for inviting me.
Hey, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. And today we're going to drink some beer. We're going to talk about some hardwood floors. And the beer we have today is the Lagunitas IPA.
Yes.
Yeah.
From California.
Or Chicago, depending on what side of the label you're looking at.
I think it's produced in Chicago as well.
Yes.
You know what? Chicago has good beer. I don't know. They're the home of Goose Island, which is funny because Goose Island should be a Canadian beer.
What makes you say that, Jay?
Because what kind of other goose is there other than the Canada goose?
Geeses! Anybody watch?
Or as Spencer Jenkins would call them, Canadian Cobra death chickens.
Yeah. Anybody seen Letterkenny?
Yes.
The golf episode?
The golf episode.
Geeses!
Gooses.
Exactly.
Geeses!
He says gooses.
Whatever it is.
He calls it gooses.
No.
Anyway, so we've had a couple Lagunitas already, so this is going to be a fun podcast for you guys to listen to. So why don't we take a sip of this delicious beer and see what we think about it?
Chris, you want to take the lead off on this?
I'll tell you, it's an easy drinking IPA from Petaluma, California. It's light on the palate, easy drinkability, and at 6.2% alcohol, it's one of the lighter IPAs.
Right.
But still
Right
a
on the
fun
low
time.
That's still a good time. Yeah, no, absolutely. Because most IPAs really have that citrus punch to it. I know the last one we did was Juicy Ass, which is really citrusy without being overbearing, still enjoyable and refreshing. This is very smooth, very drinkable. The tones are all very mellowed and makes for a really nice drinking experience, if I don't say so myself.
Yeah, some of those IPAs can have very high alcohol content percentage. I was looking at one in the beer store the other day. It was 8.5%. So that's like a 2-beer night. And we're good.
Yeah, like what do you need to drink an 8.5% beer for?
I don't know. It's like, what's that, Maximum Ice or whatever Labatt used to make it?
Oh, yeah.
The 40s? Yeah.
The homeless man special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or the high school special.
Exactly.
Depending on your situation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of, especially in the summer, Radlers. So beer and grapefruit juice mix. And I tried this one, I don't know, I guess a couple of years ago at a pub downtown. It was on tap, but I've been a big fan ever since.
Yeah. No, I like the Radlers too, actually. They're great for the golf course.
Yeah.
That's a beer you need one of, though. This is one that you can really
settle in for the
have
night.
3
Yeah.
and then take a nap.
Yeah. Pretty much sums it up. Yeah. Given it is a strong beer, IBU, we're looking at 54, 55 on the scale. So not bitter. It is obviously an IPA, but it's definitely on the lighter scale as far as IPAs go. So I think that adds to its drinkability and fairly solid.
Absolutely. Okay, so I guess today we're going to talk about hardwood floors, specifically the craft manufacturer. So, Chris, why don't you, tell us a little bit about yourself and, the craft brand.
My name is Chris English. I'm the architecture and design representative for Craft Artisan Wood Floors in the GTA. I've been with the company since last fall. I've been 10 years in the flooring industry. Started with a small family-owned contract carpet mill in Georgia. In about 2013, I joined Godfrey Hirst is a world's largest manufacturer of residential tufted wool carpet, where I was up until joining Craft back in November. Spent a week at the head office and distribution center in Burnaby, BC. Learned a lot about the company's history and about our approach to manufacturing 100% sustainable engineered hardwood flooring.
I'm actually looking forward to this episode because I think there's a lot more to the Craft brand than initially meets the eye, or that clients or potential purchasers may even realize could exist. So I think this is going to be an educational one, and I am fairly excited to jump into this one. So
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you start off with a term like sustainability, because people are at home are just gonna be like, "What's that all about?"
yeah, how much does it cost per square foot? And that's
Who cares?
pretty much the entire determination factor. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can change some minds here today and really broaden some horizons here. So where should we start off?
I can tell you a little bit about Craft. Company was founded in 2002. Our founder, Rod Gray, is still the president of our company, and his vision was to create floors that looked as natural as possible, so that people could really feel a connection with nature when they had the floors in their home. Company was founded in 2002 in British Columbia, and our credo with designing our floors and manufacturing our floors is wide and long. We've standardized on 8-inch width material, and we manufacture, our average length out of the box is a little over 5 feet at 62 inches. And in comparison to what's available in the marketplace, that there isn't anybody longer out of the box than Craft.
I think everybody would agree. That's a big positive.
Yeah, being long out the box.
Exactly. Works for golf and flooring.
Among other things.
That's what
we won't jump into that.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And to be honest with you, I don't think we've ever installed a floor that really has that length. And I know you guys pride yourselves on that, but we initially were introduced to you. No, you know what? Our mother went to the interior design show in Toronto a few years back and ended up coming back to the office with some of your samples. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, we ended up filming some Property Brothers episodes, and you guys had sponsored the Forever Home episodes that we were working on. And we started opening up the boxes, and we're noticing little labels on the floor, like this is a starter block, this is, and it just kind of took us by surprise, because typically there isn't that level of attention to detail in a hardwood floor. Typically it's just, produced, shipped out, and if there's any inadequacies in the product, like that's on the installer to figure out and make their decision whether they're going to install it or not. So to open up the boxes and actually see little labels on it, like you should use this here and you should use that there, these tiny little labels on them, it just completely took us by surprise and had really never come across anything like that. So it definitely led to some interest, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Craft has a real artisanal approach to producing our floors. Everything, the material is worked by hand. Everything from grading the material to the different processes, staining, fuming, bleaching, everything that we do to build our floors. Each plank that comes out of the box is actually worked by hand. It's kind of a 180-degree polar opposite to the very automated nature of most hardwood flooring manufacturers. And, you mentioned the starter pieces, the little label we put on the 1-foot boards that come out of our box. Basically just really trying to eliminate the chance that, a 1 foot board ends up in the middle of the room. The little label basically, use this as a starter piece in the corner of a closet or behind a door or something like that. And it's just one of those steps. Some of the other things we do from a attention to detail perspective with our knot filler. So with manufacturing hardwood flooring, you'll get seasonal checks in the wood when the wood's being seasoned for production. You'll get minor cracks. You'll have natural knots that appear in the wood. And at Craft, we don't standardize on one color. There are a lot of manufacturers out there that will standardize on black, thinking black coordinates with everything. But Craft's approach is to choose a knot filler that is going to harmonize or coordinate with the finished color of the wood. And even though we do that knot filler process very early in the production, even before any tinting or staining is done, our artisan team who grades the material when it comes into the factory, these are artisans that have been with our company for 10 years or more, that they know what material will work best with which collections and which colors. At Craft, we have we call them grades, but they refer more to the aesthetic quality of the wood. So we have some more cleaner lines, which will have minimal wood character, and what wood character is attractive wood character. And then some of our lines are more traditional, more rustic looking. So you're going to find deeper grains and greater prevalence of knots. So that knot filler process where the artisan team, when they determine which line a particular lot of material will go into, they'll also determine at that point what color within that line a particular lot of wood will become. So they select from that palette of knot fillers to get the most harmonious color with the finished product. Another attention to detail thing is we stain the tongues of our tongue and groove plank product, so that in the unfortunate event that there's a water leak, or the interior moisture level gets out of range, and you have either swelling or shrinking of the wood, in the event that there's a separation between the tongue and groove between planks, it will not create as much of a visual distraction, because the tongue is stained the same color as the surface of the plank.
Literally never seen that before.
And that's such a small thing that no one would ever really pick up on, except for maybe an installer.
Yeah, right. Like as an installer, like most of the installs that I would do, like I did them back in the day when it was all very dark colored floors, and so I used to. I mean, I still do. I keep like a Sharpie in my pocket. And if you know you can't quite get the board alignment right, or there's a gap that you just can't fix, and sometimes you have to try to maintain your straight line, and that results in you leaving a gap on the backside of the board because the milling's off. You take the marker and you get in there with the Sharpie, you color it black so that it doesn't stand out. And to have you guys actually take that step to color the interior of the tongue, that stands out immensely to an installer, right? That's that next level of detail that I've never seen, literally.
It is unusual in our industry to have that kind of attention to detail. You had mentioned earlier about those 1 foot pieces. A 1 foot piece in the middle of a room, it draws the eye. It creates a visual distraction. So, that's why we put that label on. But one of the things that does tend to draw the eye's attention are the seams in a hardwood floor. And we have a line called Longcraft. That's part of our product line. And the Longcraft is customers can decide how much or how little Longcraft they want to use in a project. But each box contains 10-foot planks, and they're all 10-foot planks. There's no mixed dimensions in there. So for homeowners that really want to feature their floor, they're not going to cover it with furniture or an area rug or anything like that. using those 10-foot long craft planks really adds to the overall beauty of the floor. And because there are fewer seams, they aren't nearly as noticeable. So for great rooms or corridors or anything where you're going to have large areas of the floor uncovered, it really provides a really high-end look to the floor.
Yeah, and we've dealt with them before, like a full box of 10-foot long pieces.
Didn't we get those on one of the episodes?
Yeah, we did.
We did. Now, because I remember picking these boxes up, like, what the heck is going on?
Why are they so big?
Yeah. How much wood is in here?
Right, and that's the thing. Like, you guys, to begin with, a typical hardwood floor box is generally around the 20 square foot per box allotment. And you pick up a box of craft, it doesn't seem that much larger than a typical box, but you're getting 42 square feet in a box out of a typical box. I'm not sure what the long craft are.
Yeah.
But it's way more efficient. And it really stood out to us, at least. I mean, like I said earlier, we really were introduced to you guys working on Forever Home. We got a hardwood floor delivery showing up, and there's half the boxes on the driveway for us to bring in. It's way more efficient, and the same thing transfers through to installation, right? When you have long pieces, it takes the same amount of time to put a board in place.
Yeah.
So if you have small boards, relatively it's the same amount of time to put a small board in versus a long board.
Exactly.
And so the installation is much quicker, and all you really have to do is glue down to accommodate for the board width. At 8 inches, it's fairly substantial.
Yeah, no, it definitely covers, you're taking the same amount of time for a short board versus a long board, and it's covering more of the floor for every board that you do.
And like you mentioned, there's less themes that way. So you're getting more visual beauty of the natural wood and the wood grain rather than the crisscross nature of a smaller plank. So
that's so true. And even our regular length material comes in an 8-foot box, but our average length out of the box for our regular material is 62 inches, a little over 5 feet. So when you compare that to the average length out of the box, some other products that are available in the market, it's like a foot longer average out of the box. So, and I think that really speaks to the quality of the material that's used to make our floors. We have long-standing relationships with the suppliers we get our wood from, and they quite often will earmark really good quality material when it comes in from the field, and they'll set it aside for craft because they know, because of our relationship with them, and they understand the type of product we make. They want to provide us with the best quality material to make that. And to make 10-foot planks, you really need good quality material to do that.
Yeah.
So the material in our products is really a cut above what you'll find from some other manufacturers.
literally.
Yeah. Pardon the pun.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's like the finished product is beautiful. I mean, if you've seen a Forever Home episode recently, you've definitely seen the craft product installed, and it almost doesn't do it justice watching it on TV. You want to see it in real life because the quality of the aesthetic is really, really there.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many different types of wood species do you guys actually offer?
So we produce flooring with 4 different species of wood. We use hickory, American white oak, black walnut, and we have a line of reclaimed heart pine, which is engineered hardwood that the veneer has been made from the posts and beams and structural components of old warehouses and mills in the southern U.S. So we have material we've manufactured from a warehouse in South Carolina, and just this year's material came from a mill in Georgia that was the property was being redeveloped, and they were going to tear it down. One of the things I like about living in Canada, and more specifically in Ontario, is that we preserve those historical buildings, but there aren't those protections in some states. So, but we benefit from it because we're able to make a really traditional rustic line of flooring where the veneers, the wood in the veneer is actually over 100 years old. And it really has a beautiful patina that really only time can instill in the wood. And in those pieces of wood that have holes in them, whether they were for bolts or nails or whatever in its original construction, we really artfully create custom plugs and use wood filler and stuff to repair the wood. But once it's cut down for the veneers and it's applied to the planks, when it's installed, every couple of boards you'll see one of these plugs where they've repaired the wood, and it really gives it's reclaimed hard pine.
Yeah, it's a cool rustic look for sure.
It's perfect for urban lofts or cafes or those types of things where they really want a more traditional.
That's really cool because that's such an exclusive, finite product, right? Like once that runs out, you can't recreate that in any way, shape, or form. It's incredible.
Until they knock down another building.
Yeah, but like eventually you run out of buildings to knock down, right?
Yeah,
and
you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, when these buildings were built, 100 years or so ago, there wasn't sustainable forestry initiatives out there. So unfortunately, this really solid, hard species of pine, it's only a few points off of our white oak in terms of its hardness, so it wears very well. There's not a lot of hard pine left in North America. A lot of it was harvested and never replanted. So
which leads to the exclusivity.
Exclusivity
right?
of the reclaimed nature.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, because we've put pine in before, but it's white pine and it's ridiculously soft, right? You could just your kid could sit there with a crayon and draw their name in it and leave it permanently there, right?
Exactly.
It's that soft.
Or jot down a phone number of a message and it's indelibly embossed in your floor.
Yeah,
Chris was here,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I didn't realize that was a.
Yeah. So the other thing that we do extremely well, and a lot of flooring manufacturers will avoid, is we make a lot of products from hickory. And
I love hickory.
Hickory, it's
such you get a nice dark gray hickory.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful species of wood, but a lot of manufacturers will avoid it because it can be temperamental. We refer it sometimes as the wild child of woods, because if you don't know how to work with it, you can make mistakes that result in orange looking flooring. But almost like that, that, to use an analogy, the difficult child that is a little bit more challenging when they're growing up. Sometimes they turn in beautiful results as an adult, and hickory is very much like that. If you have the patience and you have the time and the experience to work with it, it really yields beautiful results. And it's got a hardness rating of like 1820. So it's the hardest species of wood that we make flooring from. So for those busy, active households, hickory is really the way to go. Pets and kids and stuff like that.
And there is a lot of variation in hickory. It's
a beautiful
wood, right?
grain.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the closest thing aesthetically to walnut without.
Walnut's really nice, but it's soft.
Walnut is so rich and beautiful but it's soft.
Yeah.
Right, and so hickory kind of blends that gap between usability, wearability, and the beauty, right? Where you do get those blonde flares and those dark accents in the hickory. That's extremely prevalent in the walnut. That really makes walnut just phenomenally beautiful.
The grains are so beautiful in black walnut that the flooring that we're able to produce from it it's so visually interesting, and so like the natural grain patterns you get are so rich. We've had a number of customers who have purchased our black walnut flooring for their walls, and they've done wall cladding, and in some cases even the ceiling they've done with a polished concrete, for urban lofts, a polished concrete floor, and used our floors, our plank flooring as wall covering or even ceiling covering, just because it's so gorgeous.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, we have the samples. They're absolutely astounding, right? So, yeah, it's a hell of a product, absolutely.
So now that we've gotten the aesthetics of craft floor down, Dave and I, we did a podcast a while back ago about different hardwood floors, like the differences between engineered and sawn off and all this stuff. But then we dove more into the specifics of engineering flooring, and because there's multiple ways to assemble an engineered floor.
Yeah.
So there's different foundations. Dave and I were under the impression that engineered flooring was best with a plywood foundation. You guys don't use a plywood foundation. And I believe if you guys have this much attention to detail just on the top, I'd like to know why and how you guys build your foundation of your floor.
The primary reason why we don't use plywood as a foundation for our plank flooring is that its origins are cloudy at best. We, through research and product development, our founder back in the early days of our company was trying to source sustainable plywood. Seems easy enough, but the more research we did, we realized that there's a lot of plywood out there that really has untraceable roots, pardon the pun. And there's certain areas of the world where sustainable forestry is not a priority. And in order to produce a product that we could, put a verifiable claim that it's 100% sustainable, we couldn't produce our flooring on plywood. So at that point, our founder and current president, he began to look at other options for the foundation, and what he settled upon was creating our own foundation from solid sawn components. So he could acquire sustainable wood. He just realized we would have to manufacture our own foundation. So we settled on a design, we call it DAX2, Design for Advanced Core Stability. And it's the second generation of this design, but it's basically a mortise and tenon construction. So the mortise pieces run the width of the plank, and they're cut in such a way that they fit with two tenon pieces which run the full length of the plank. And it does two things. One, for the installer, it makes joining the tongue and groove and the planks during installation very easy, because you're basically installing, you're basically putting two pieces together as opposed to 50 or 60 pieces of wood. Once those mortises are cut, they are susceptible to absorbing moisture, which can cause them to change shape or warp or split, and that can sometimes create an issue when you're installing the flooring. But the way
one other thing I'll say too is if you're installing a plywood floor and you're taking a specialized nail gun and you take this hammer and you smash the nail gun in with a hammer. And if you hit it to a mallet, and if you hit it too hard, she break.
Yeah.
And
lots of times. And then
And then, so when you go to put the next board on it, it's a problem. And so, engineered floor with a plywood base versus a solid hardwood floor, I'm going to choose the hardwood floor solid all day, every day for installation purposes. Mm-hmm. And so you guys have kind of circumvented that plywood problem, where you absolutely install like a normal traditional solid sawn hardwood floor, except you're 8 inches in width.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And the other inherent issue with cutting wood is that wherever the cut ends of the wood are, they tend to be more likely to absorb moisture during seasonal changes in humidity. So by sealing all of those mortars with the tenon piece, it basically wood doesn't absorb as much moisture lengthwise as it does versus where it's been cut. So each one of our planks, you really just have the four corners of the plank, the cut ends of those tenon pieces that are potentially susceptible to that moisture absorption. We, as a manufacturer, once we've manufactured the flooring, we coat the entire foundation in a polyurethane sealant. That also helps with mitigate the transfer of moisture, the seasonal transfer of moisture.
Yeah, and you do have a wider relative humidity range, recommended range for the floor. Like a typical hardwood floor is 40 to 50%. You'll even see engineered hardwood floors with 40 to 50% because they're not taking the same level of care when they're designing their floors. Craft has that wider range, that 30 to 50% rather than 40 to 50%. And realistically, the interior humidity range of a home, and especially in Canada, you're using an air conditioner in the summer, and you're stripping the humidity out of the house. And in the winter, like that's a very reasonable range, right? That's a practical range to hold your humidity in.
Exactly, Dave. We have a range of 30 to 50% that we recommend, but part of our manufacturing process, part of the seasoning of the wood when we're manufacturing it, it's an 84-hour kiln conditioning process where it's a kiln, so we're obviously using heat, but adding and removing moisture at key intervals within that cycle, where we're bringing the moisture content of the wood, which our veneers and our core wood come from different growing regions. They're different species. We bring the moisture content of both the veneer and the foundation wood down to about 5%. So we're basically removing all of the moisture from the wood. And the reason we do that is with any living thing, especially wood, there's internal stresses in the wood, and they are, really reduced by removing as much moisture as possible from the wood. So by getting that, by bringing the moisture content into harmony at 5% between the veneer and the foundation wood, those internal stresses are gone. And from our perspective, we're marrying that veneer to that foundation for life. So we can't have the veneer or the foundation kind of, fighting the other one as it, absorbs moisture. So with our lightweight, strong construction, the fact that we seal it with polyurethane, the fact that we get the moisture content of the wood down to about 5%, it really removes the possibility of checking and warping and those types of
It's
things.
funny because you bring it down to such a low amount that, in the real world, you're never going to see 5% relative humidity in a house. So it's being exposed to the extreme in the worst case. And it's funny because you mentioned for life, right? And you're providing an 8-inch plank, and something like that, the wider the plank is, the less nails per square foot of hardwood floor. So we naturally supplement that with glue. And God bless the people who try to remove the floors after we install them, because we're doing like a solid glue down. And that floor is essentially permanent, right? So it really needs to be able to maintain itself. And, I know that it's a 30 to 50% recommended range, but realistically, that's just, being safe, right? There's more built in there. And it's just nice to know that there is that extra stability built into the floor initially, fully well knowing that that's a firm commitment to go with a wide plank.
Okay, so there's been probably one of the last points we're going to talk about here today, and it's probably the biggest point because this has been thrown around in this conversation quite often today. And when you use this word, I don't think people quite understand what it is you mean by that. And you keep on saying, craft builds sustainable hardwood, right? So I need you to dive more into that. What does it mean to be a manufacturer of sustainable hardwood? What does it mean to, buy your wood from a sustainable forest, and so on and so forth?
Right. So there are a couple of different standards that people may be familiar with as far as sustainable forestry. These are third-party organizations. Craft has, we've decided to go with the SFI, or the Sustainable Forestry Initiative standard. It's North American based, and only for those landowners, forest landowners who choose the SFI initiative, it is strictly for North America. And basically these are standards that third-party standards that have to be met in terms of, watering, in terms of cutting patterns. When they harvest certain parts of the forest, they leave stands of old growth forest, because at the end of the day, forests emit a tremendous amount of oxygen, and they consume carbon dioxide, and all living things emit carbon dioxide. So it's almost like a perfect relationship, because humans, animals, are producing all of this carbon, and forests basically consume that carbon and give us back oxygen, which is what any living thing requires. So sustainable forestry is so important when you look at issues like climate change. Even though we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, the single biggest threat to our planet is climate change. And so rather than, make an extra couple of bucks and be part of the problem, Craft has decided to, make an investment in the future of the planet and acquire material that comes from forests that are efficiently and environmentally managed. And I mentioned the SFI standard. People, some observers might be aware of the FSC standard, which stands for the Forestry Stewardship Council.
You see that everywhere.
You'll see that in DSHA on printed material. They want you to know that the paper, that whatever you're receiving has been certified by the FSC standard. What we have found with our research is that there are some loopholes with the FSC standard in terms of, I'll give you an example. A manufacturer can produce a line of products, or can produce a product that has a sustainable component to it. They are able to use that FSC and DSHA, or that logo, on all of their products.
So it's a manufacturer certification, not a product certification.
Right. So when a manufacturer provides products like Craft does with the SFI label, it's confirming that our products are 100% come from third-party certified, 100% sustainable forests. So the wood costs a little bit more, but at the end of the day, you're making a better choice for the planet, and you're giving the consumer an option to make a decision that they can feel good about in terms of the future health of our planet. And that's a nice segue into talking about volatile organic compounds, VOCs. A lot of people are familiar with them, and they kind of really came to light a few years ago. And what VOCs are, they chemicals that are inherent in building products, or they're inherent in preservatives, or things that we use in our lives. They extend to wood finishes. They can also be pesticides, those types of things.
Yeah,
Paint,
remember when paint used to smell like...
Yeah,
like
that
your
smell
house
is
was
a
gonna light
volatile
up,
organic compound being emitted into the room.
And now you don't get that anymore.
Well, even it's instability in the product, right? So the whole, I put a coat of paint on the wall, and 2 months later I go to put the same paint on the wall and it looks different. It's because that paint was emitting these VOCs into the air that you're breathing in, your family's breathing in.
Yeah, it's called off-gassing, and it's an inherent quality in some building materials and finishes. So what Craft has decided to do is we sought out the highest, strictest certification for low VOCs available in the market, which is the Green Guard Gold certification. We achieved that certification with our DuraFinish Ultramatte, which is a proprietary finish that we put on all of our products. And some consumers may be aware of a standard called Floor Score. Floor Score, you'll see the logo on some flooring products. Floor Score tests for 30 volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. The Green Guard Gold certification, in order to get that designation, they test for over 360 VOCs. So it's a by tenfold more strict in terms of what they test for. And if you look at different interior environments in our society, the most sensitive interior environments are usually hospital or medical facilities, schools, those types of things. And in order to be selected for those sensitive interior environments, flooring, all interior finishes need to meet that Green Guard Gold certification. So even though we know our product will never be installed in a hospital or a school, homeowners can make a conscious decision to choose something that, choose a product that meets the strictest standards for VOCs, because at the end of the day, studies have shown we're spending a lot more time inside, than previous generations. Some estimates have, people spending 90% of their time indoors, and of that 90%, at least half that's going to be in your own home. So if you've got little children or other members of your family, you want them breathing the cleanest interior air possible. So.
Oh, for sure.
It's funny because, craft, maybe it's not a cheap floor, right? You're not going to pick it up for $5 a square foot. And I feel like the market is so dictated by plain old price per square foot. But what are you actually buying? What's the value, right? You have to look at the value of what you're getting. And to have a product like Craft that is literally taking care of the planet, taking care of the interior of like the air quality inside of your own home, it's that next level. And it's worth that additional spend, right? Like a nice hardwood floor, engineered hardwood floor starts at $9. So what, you're $1 more, $1.50, depending on the model that you're getting. So it's like marginally more money per square foot, but it's such a prevalent product throughout your home, and that it's not off-gassing in the same way that one of those cheaper products are. There's more consistency throughout the product in its manufacturing and staining, and it's just, what are you actually buying? What's the value? And when you take that into consideration, it makes sense. And for us, like our clients, if we're going to promote something, if we're going to bring something into our office and we're going to promote something to our clients, it has to check all the boxes. And Craft just makes sense to us because it checks those boxes off.
Much like your value proposition, we feel we have a compelling value proposition. We're not the cheapest game in town, but what we offer is a high-end looking floor with credible environmental attributes, basically as green as possible, at an affordable price. And anybody who's hiring Pewter to do their renovation or their build, they've done some research. They have a family member, a friend, a neighbor who has worked with you guys in the past, and they know that you guys, you measure twice and you cut once. You don't cut corners. And Craft, we're not a big manufacturer. We're an artisan wood floor manufacturer. So we want to partner with like-minded professionals who offer service that's a cut above, quality that's a cut above. And that's why we feel like it's going to be a great partnership between our companies, because you guys, nobody is going to hire you guys for a house that they just want to get it cheap and cheerful and flip it. This is going to be their, forever home, their retirement home, or somewhere where they want to raise their family. They're going to be there 10 or 15 years. And, you guys provide an investment quality construction, and at Craft, we're investment quality flooring, and we don't cut corners. We offer, like I said, a compelling value proposition. Consumers can feel good about selecting the product, not just for its beauty, but for its environmental and sustainable credibility.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you're thinking about the product from its very inception all the way through to its finish and lasting ability. And that's the way that we operate, right? We build properly, so we're more expensive. We're not charging any more than anybody else is marginally. Yeah. We're just doing it properly. And when you build properly, it costs more money because we're not cutting those corners. We're double waterproofing showers. Like everything is going to last. And it's an attention to detail of what's going on behind the wall, below the substrate, what the substrate is, how the substrate is finished, what product are you putting on top of the substrate, how are you bonding the substrate to the finished product. It's all a process. And I can appreciate Craft as a brand and as a hardwood floor because you pay just as much attention as we do to all those processes across the way, just in that one area.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to see, honestly. And it's something that we are proud to promote and have in our showroom. So
yeah, there's that old adage, life is in the details, right?
Yeah.
You can save a couple of bucks and you can get a wood floor, or you can, see something that has compelling value, obvious beauty, and it's a small kind of upcharge from there.
It's funny too, because you mentioned the whole flipping thing, that it wouldn't be a typical product in a flip. And we've actually acquired our first flip property, and we're going to try to change that whole mantra, because we see too much garbage hitting the market, creating distrust for homeowners. You see a nicely renovated home, or you hope that it's nicely renovated. And, we have clients who bring us in, hey, can you check this house out with me? I'm thinking of buying it. Friends, family, whatever. And I'll go, gladly, I'll go help lend whatever I can. And I'm just cringing. If they're showing these details on the forefront, what is hiding behind the walls or below the finished product? You just don't know. We're proud to have secured Craft flooring for this flip that we're about to start. And we're going to start a vlog that's going to show all the processes and how it should be built. Because if you're going to pick up a house, there should be some level of safety and trust and accountability for the builder and for all the manufacturers who have supplied products to that home, right? These are people's livelihoods. They're home. They want to raise their families in them, or maybe you're done raising your family and you want to retire peacefully, right? You don't want problems. And so we're going to choose the best products that we possibly can for our clients and future homeowners. And we're just happy to have Craft on board, honestly. We have you guys proudly positioned up front as soon as you walk in the door into the office. And that feels good, honestly. And
we appreciate that, because there is a balance between, budget and quality of material. And we feel like we've selected different partners in our markets, and we're not everywhere. So, we carefully choose our partners that offer value, much like we feel like that we offer. We offer a superior quality product, and it's not going to, cost the farm, right? It's affordable luxury, and it's affordable natural beauty. I'll just speak very quickly about it. We have a proprietary finish that we use on all of our floors. The trend in design these days tends to be like a wire brush oil finish on floors. And what we did, we actually spent about 6 months developing this finish with one of our supply chain partners, where we wanted the look of a wire brush natural oil finish floor, but without the meticulous maintenance that's involved in that. And the result was our DuraFinish Ultramat, which was what allowed us to achieve that Green Guard Gold certification.
For anybody out there, what he's talking about is if you have an oil finish floor, you need to maintain that oil finish. So you have to continually apply a fresh layer of oil. So and it's a beautiful finish. It's absolutely gorgeous. We've done it before in the past, but it does require maintenance. And what they've essentially replicated is that look, that beauty without the maintenance, which is
That you've hit the
incredible.
nail on the head, exactly. And what a lot of people, what consumers, when they're looking at flooring, quite often you'll see polyurethane finishes, which are oil based, and you put a couple of layers of that protectant on top of the wood, and it begins to, the viscosity of it is very thick, so it begins to fill in the grain and the natural beauty of the wood, and it starts to look like,
and it looks cloudy.
it looks
as well.
like luxury vinyl plank type of thing. And with craft, our founder right from the beginning wanted to create flooring that people could feel a natural connection to, and I think that's what really sets us apart from some of the other manufacturers out there when it comes to the matte finish of our flooring. We have a gloss level of 6 to 8%, depending on the product. If you take the gloss level down too much, the wood ends up looking dead. Whereas with our gloss level, it really draws out the beauty in the grain in the wood and provides enough luster that it doesn't look dead. But at the same time, you don't have that shininess that you normally get with polyurethane finishes. Our finish is a water-based UV cured treatment that we put on the wood, and it actually goes on in 8 layers. There's 6 base layers and then 2 finish coats. So when you look at it, any consumer, any person looks at the wood and they touch it, feel it, examine it, you can tell that the wood is protected, but it still feels like wood.
It
still
feels soft
looks
and
like
delicate. Like
yeah. And I mean, flooring is a lot of people will, look at it close up. I always recommend with flooring, throw it down on the floor, see what it looks like from there. And we get consumers all the time that just say, I had no idea how much sensory perception there was in my feet versus my eyes and my hands. Right. And when people walk on the floor in bare feet, it really just, it's a real connection to nature, and it really feels different to walk on a craft floor versus other hardwoods.
It does actually.
I'd
It does.
agree with
Like
that, yeah.
I mean, you might think sitting on the opposite side of that camera that's some gimmicky ploy, but no, it you can feel the grain, but it's smooth and safe.
Well, I think that's why so many people like hand scraped
Right?
flooring right now.
Yeah,
Hand scrapes are huge, and you pay up the nose for hand scrape.
And that's the thing about craft floors, is that there's very little automation, arguably no automation in our manufacturing process. So for those collections that we have that are more traditional or rustic looking, we'll have hand scraping, hand chiseled bevels, those types of things. There's no repetition in the pattern on those planks because it's all done by artisans. It's all done by hand using old world techniques. So there's no.
Because you see those boards.
You can pick out
like the same cupping pattern.
Yeah, all the way
the
through.
board. Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
yeah.
So with we call it vintage craft, where our artisans will actually give that time-worn look, give the look of a time-worn floor. One of our product lines has those sort of jump marks, and they're really authentic looking. It makes it look like the boards have gone through like an old planer or something like that. So you see that kind of character. And then our more contemporary lines, have a micro bevel. It's a very uniform, tight, almost non-existent bevel. So it depends on what the homeowner is looking for in terms of the overall aesthetic of their renovation or their build. If they want something very modern, go with cleaner collection, micro bevel. If they're doing like an urban loft, or they want a more rustic look, we certainly offer products that'll fit the bill there.
I have a question too. You mentioned like what the client wants. A lot of times we're getting asked, can we have a heated hardwood floor? Can we use craft in a way where we can heat it?
Absolutely. We warrant all of our floors for use with radiant floor heat, but also electric floor heat. One of our partners is called Warmboard. Warmboard manufactures radiant subfloor heating, so they're basically using warm water to create the heat under the floor. But we've also recently added the possibility of using electric floor heat underneath our floors. So
That's incredible.
I mean, realistically, we're gluing down the floor anyway, so we're just gonna create the blanket underneath,
right.
and then glue down on top of that.
Hopefully a nail doesn't hit a wire.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't nail in that case.
But yeah, we've recently added even electric floor heating systems.
Which is-
That's really interesting. I mean, to think about actually adding heat underneath a wood floor.
The reason that we warranted for radiant was because with the way those systems works, you really can't change the temperature of the floor too dramatically. Whereas with electric systems, you can really change the temperature of the floor quickly. And what we always recommend for homeowners is, when you head into the fall and the winter, turn up the temperature so that it's comfortable and it's warm, but don't use it like a thermostat, like with your furnace. Like if you're cold, don't turn up the floor.
Don't use the floor to heat your house.
Exactly, yeah. So it's more for comfort underfoot, but also to even protect the floor to a certain extent. People are installing our floors in cottages now, and they're 4-season cottages, but they want to make sure that when they're at home during the week that the floor won't be damaged if the cottage gets particularly cold. So all that to say that radiant floor and electric floor heating is suitable for use under all of our floors.
Good to know.
Incredible.
That answers some questions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've hit all the points we wanted to hit today. Is there any closings you'd like to?
Can we plug an Instagram or
Yeah,
website?
you got an Instagram
or-
website. That kind of stuff?
That would be great. Our website is www.craftfloor.com, and our Instagram handle is @craftfloors
with an S.
Craft
with an
floors.
S. Exactly. Website, not plural. Instagram, plural.
All right, there you go. So no, we are PEWTER.build across everything else, and PEWTER.pints on YouTube and every other
YouTube
Platform.
and podcast
platform.
stuff. Yes.
Lagunitas is a good beer.
Yes, it works exceptionally well.
All right, guys. Enjoy
Cheers,
the
guys.
rest of your
Have a
weekend.
good weekend. Thanks for
tuning
coming in, Chris. It was
Thank you,
a
guys.
Solid
Appreciate it.
conversation.
Take
Cheers.
care.